choices for you and your family. Cook it, give it. You'll love when you live it. L-I-V-E, live it.
Welcome everybody. My name is Andrea Miller and I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator here at Community Hospitals and Wellness Centers in Bryan. And I'm so excited, back by popular demand, I have Santa Claus with me here today for our Live It Winter White. So I'm so excited to show you a couple desserts today. It seems like this time of year, everybody's baking, everybody's cooking, so why not include some healthier recipes during the holiday season? A couple other considerations with these recipes is I've worked with a lot of people lately that have allergies. In fact, Santa and I were just talking about some allergies. He said his wife is allergic to one of our ingredients, white chocolate chips. But there's a couple allergens that are very common right now. One is gluten. So both of our recipes today are gluten-free for any of your family members that are gluten intolerant. And then also they are dairy-free as well, except for the chocolate chips. There may be some dairy issues with the chocolate chips, but they're, for the most part, vegan as well. So I'm going to show you today how to make a berry whip with a secret, surprise, and fascinating ingredient. And then we're also going to do a white chocolate chip blondie. And we're going to use the entire can of chickpeas in some way today. So all of our audience members have a can of chickpeas. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first recipe, a berry whip. We're going to be using a food processor quite a bit today that I realized just now we forgot to plug in. So we need some power for our food processor. Okay, for our berry whip, we're using 2 cups of frozen mixed berries. You can use really any frozen fruit you want. I really like the berry combination. I came across this recipe on accident. I actually made it up.
So what do we have in there?
We have
strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries.
Yeah, all sorts of good stuff in here. So you're getting lots of antioxidants with this blend. But if you don't like some of these fruits, you can use any frozen fruit you want. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add 2 cups of frozen berries. And I prefer frozen in this recipe because we're making I can't call it an ice cream, but because there are no ingredients that are in ice cream in this recipe. But it's like an ice cream, and we're going to freeze it. So starting with frozen berries, half of the freezing process is done for you. You could use fresh. It's just going to take it a little bit longer to freeze. 1 second there, Santa. We're going to sweeten it up a little bit.
I like sweet.
Add, 1/3 of a cup of just regular sugar, white sugar. You could experiment with some different sweeteners if you wanted, like honey, agave. If you're looking for a low carb option, you could experiment with some artificial sweeteners like Splenda, stevia or truvia, monk fruit extract, things like that. That's going to drop the carb quite a bit. And then we need some liquid in there to help with the with blending the berry. Whoa, we have a magnetic can opener here.
I know what I'm bringing you for Christmas, a new can opener.
Yeah, no kidding. I have been a very good girl this year, by the way. But you already know that.
I do.
We're talking about that with my son. Santa sees everything, so.
We had a phone call the other night, your son and I.
Yeah, you did. Thank you for taking the time to call him.
He's been a very good boy.
Special. He has been pretty good most of the time. He has his moments. Okay, so then we're going to add a 1/2 cup. I have to find out which one is a 1/2 cup here. We're adding a 1/2 cup of light coconut milk. So again, I stumbled upon this ingredient in here by accident. I was making it for, actually it was Halloween trick-or-treat night, the same night that I think it was Ohio State, Purdue maybe, was on. And the guys were all in the living room yelling at the TV, and it was making me crazy. So I went in the kitchen and I made up this recipe using black beans, and I had some leftover coconut milk in the refrigerator. I threw some coconut milk in. We're going to do 1/2 cup.
How do you milk a coconut?
I don't know, Santa. This is just coming from a can. Do you know how to milk a coconut?
You break it open, I believe.
Santa knows everything. All right, so we're going to blend that up. Whoa. Oh, you're good. I was just blowing for effect.
It goes, ho! Not
It's
whoa!
whoa, not
Ho, ho, ho.
All right. How does it look? Is it pretty smooth?
No.
No. Okay, we'll go a little bit longer. Well, while Santa's working on that, I am going to get our chickpeas going. So we're actually not using the actual bean itself in this recipe. We're just going to use the liquid from the can. So most people dump this off, but in about 2015, they realized that you could whip this liquid, and it is actually a really awesome vegan alternative to egg whites or heavy cream. It whips up into peaks, just like either of those would do in a recipe. And for those of you thinking you're putting bean liquid in my ice cream, not ice cream, I guess. Yes, I am, and you're not going to taste the beans. I promise. It does not taste like beans at all. So I'm just going to drain the liquid. You want something with tall sides. If you have a KitchenAid mixer, or I guess a stand mixer, doesn't have to be that brand. A stand mixer works really well for this. It takes a lot of the work away from it. I'm going to use my immersion blender. It has a whisk attachment. You don't, I repeat, do not put this in the blender or food processor, because if you do that, it's going to destroy the bubbles as quickly as it makes them. So you have to use some type of whipping blade or whipping attachment like a whisk. I have heard of people hand whisking it, but you're going to be hand whisking for like an hour. So if you want some exercise, go ahead and hand whip it. I've also heard of people putting it in a jar, like a glass jar, and shaking it. If you want something, you know, your kids need some character building, maybe that's a good option.
Make sure the lid is on tight.
Make sure the lid is on tight. But I like this. This works pretty well. So you just whip it, and it's going to take a second here, and it's going to get noisy. I promise, or I apologize for that. And actually, Santa, while I am whipping, would you mind transferring our puree, our berry puree, into the glass pan right here?
Mm-hmm.
Hand him.
Thank you.
Transfer it right in there. So as you can see, it's starting to get thick already. And the time just really depends on what you're using. A hand mixer would work as well, but it's going to take it a little bit longer. So some bubbles are forming.
Thank you, Kitchen Elf.
And it's starting to get even thicker.
Beginning to look a little like Christmas in there.
Yeah! That's why we named it White Christmas. Sorry, Winter White. This stuff is amazing. When I first discovered that I could do this with the liquid from a can of chickpeas, I was literally doing cartwheels.
In your kitchen?
In my kitchen.
How
Heck
big
yeah.
is your kitchen? I come down the chimney and leave presents. I don't take a tour. How big is your kitchen? Or how small are your cartwheels?
Big enough to do cartwheels, I guess. So you can see, so I didn't whip it very long there, and it's already, we have some peaks there. So I'll whip it a second more. It's very solid. If you were making something with, this is called aquafaba. The liquid from a can of beans is called aquafaba. And if you were making this at home and wanted to stabilize it a little bit further, you could add a little bit of cream of tartar to it to help stabilize it. But as we freeze it, that's going to stabilize it itself. The freezing process is going to help stabilize it. So I'm going to add in our berry puree And I'm going to be very careful here not to break down the foam. I'm just going to kind of fold it in. So, yeah, aquafaba, again, in 2015, around that time, somebody found that you could do this with the liquid from a can of chickpeas. Very popular in the vegan world. Before this, there was really no alternative for vegans for egg whites, like beet egg white, or whipped cream in the dairy. So, the real nutrition benefit of this, calorie-wise, it's almost nothing for the aquafaba itself. It's about 3 to 5 calories per unwhipped tablespoon. So hardly anything in it, just a little bit of like starch residue, little bit of, trace amounts of like proteins, amino acids, things like that. But we're still learning a lot about this substance. We don't really understand completely why it's whipping the way it is. But it does seem to act as a very effective like egg binder, and it whips up just like this. If you have an ice cream maker at home, put it in your ice cream freezer, and it's going to come out just like soft serve ice cream. It's really, really awesome. If you don't have an ice cream freezer, just go ahead and put it in a pan like this. Kind of spread it out and set that in your freezer for about an hour or two. And then go ahead and serve it. If you leave it in for longer than that, I think the samples we got today were left in the freezer just a little bit longer than the 1 to 2 hours, so they're a little bit more firm. That's okay. Some people actually prefer it like that because it kind of, I don't know, I've heard people describe it as like cotton candy ice cream. It kind of melts in your mouth when you take a bite. It kind of like just dissolves and turns into nothingness. So it's really kind of fun.
Thank you.
I've also experimented with some other applications of aquafaba. I've made meringue with it, actually. Ooh. So like meringue cookies, you beat in some sugar and drop it on a cookie sheet. You have to bake it for quite some time, though. There's recipes online if this is something you're interested in. But I just thought this was really cool. I got really excited when I saw that you could do that with a can of chickpeas, and I just had to show you guys. So we're going to set all this aside.
Do you know what we call a freezer at the North Pole?
Outside.
Outside.
I got it! Yes! So yeah, if you're at the North Pole, Santa, you can just go ahead and set this outdoors. Actually, this time of year, you can probably do the same thing. So yeah, we're going to set this aside. I'm kind of tempted just to like dig in right now and eat it. But so what do you do with the rest of the can of chickpeas then, right? You make blondies.
Blondies?
Blondies. Like brownies. But we're using the chickpeas. Has anybody ever made black bean brownies?
Mrs. Claus loves black bean brownies.
Loves black bean brownies. I love black bean brownies. But we just use the liquid from the can of chickpeas, so we have a can of garbanzo beans here that need to be used. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw these in the food processor along with a few other ingredients, and we're going to make a gluten-free blondie, so a white brownie.
Clarification for everybody out there. Chickpeas and garbanzo beans?
Same thing.
Good to know.
So I don't really know why there's a name difference. I haven't done research myself. I just use them interchangeably. They are the exact same thing. Chickpeas, actually this can right here, not that I'm promoting a brand, on the front it says chickpeas and on the other side it says garbanzos. So yeah, same thing. It's the same thing you use to make hummus. So they're a great source of protein and fiber, plus they have other nutrients in them as well, vitamins and minerals. So
if you have picky children and they don't like beans, turn it around and tell them it's peas. If they don't like peas, turn it around and tell them it's beans.
That's right. We did a trial of this recipe for our wellness committee, and I was sitting next to someone trying the blondie, and she's like, I don't like chickpeas. I'm like, you don't like chickpeas? And she's trying the recipes. Oh, these are so good. I'm like, well, you're eating chickpeas / garbanzo beans right now as we speak, and you can't even tell. So yeah, good way to sneak in some healthy ingredients in a really fun way. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to set our food processor back up. We rinsed it out in the meantime and get Get everything ready. The first thing we're going to add to our food processor once it's ready is some oats. We're using quick oats, and we're going to give those a quick pulse before we put anything else in to kind of blend them up a little bit. So it's almost like an oat flour. At home, I usually use flax meal for this. You can also do that, just depends on your preference. Figured most people had oats versus flax in their pantry at this time. So, are they chopped up a bit?
Chopped up a bit. How chopped up would you like
them? You can keep going a little bit more. We want them pretty fine, kind of like sand. Ladies and gentlemen, Santa. All right, how's it look?
It looks chopped up.
All right, so we're going to add our can of, what do you prefer to call them, Santa?
Delicious.
Okay. We're going to add our can of Delicious into, and then we're going to add some more. Santa's just ready to go. He's ready to blend. We're going to sweeten it up a little bit too. It is Christmas, so we have 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. Oh, you need a little
utensil. Thank you.
It's a little firm, but hopefully the food processor will take care of that. And then we have 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. The salt helps to bring out the sweetness. But we don't need to bring out the sweetness in Santa, do we? And then 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then we can put the top on and give it a whirl. You want it to be pretty smooth.
Food processor is my new favorite instrument.
You can use it better this year. You must have been practicing.
Indeed.
How's it look? Still?
Our brown sugar did not want to cooperate.
That's some...
The brown sugar's been a bad boy.
Yes. Brown sugar's on the naughty list this year. Is it still being naughty?
I think we're okay.
Okay, we're okay. Let's see how it looks. Hey, that looks great. Let's show our audience at home how lovely that looks. So it's just it kind of looks like sand a little bit.
Or peanut butter cookie dough.
Peanut butter cookie dough. That's probably a better description of it. Okay, so we're gonna add some yumminess. Very technical term, yumminess, right? And, oh, yeah, we can do that. Great idea, Santa. So since it's Live It Winter White, we are adding white chocolate chips. But I'm kind of a dark chocolate girl myself, if I'm being totally honest. So the original recipe did have dark chocolate in it. And for Mrs. Claus, you're probably going to want to use dark chocolate for her too, because we don't want her getting sick during the holidays. Very important with her allergy or intolerance to dark chocolate chips, or to white chocolate chips.
White chocolate.
You said. White chocolate is
if you
what
took
she-
dark chocolate away from her,
She would be an unhappy Mrs. Claus.
she might be a Grinch.
Yeah, we need Mrs. Claus to be happy during the holiday season. So we are going to take an 8x8 pan and we're going to spray it a little bit with some cooking spray, or a lot of cooking spray. And then we are just going to dump that in there and bake it. I'm going to ask for some participation from our audience because I don't remember what the recipe says for temperature and how long to bake it. Nobody wants to talk. 350 for how long? 30 minutes. So 350 for 30 minutes. I'm going to spread that out. Pop it in the oven for 350 for 30 minutes. It's going to look a little bit underdone when it comes out of the oven. You really don't have to worry about this being underdone though, because there's nothing in here that you can't eat raw. In fact, if you were going to let your kids lick the bowl for any recipe, this one's the one to do it, because there's no eggs, there's no flour, which is actually also a risk for foodborne illness now, actually. E. coli actually is the disease I was looking for. So raw flour and raw eggs can both be a risk for foodborne illness. But this you could eat just like that. It's completely safe. But we're going to bake it 350 for a while and pop it out of the oven. And then you have an ice cream, a fairy ice cream, and a white chocolate blondie. And you're good to go for your family gatherings or any party that you're going to. So I want to thank everybody at home and our viewers here and Santa so much for joining us again today. We really appreciate you taking time during this busy time of the year to come and help us make desserts today on Live It. So does anybody have any questions?
To all the kids out there, leave these for Santa Claus. I have to eat about 1 billion cookies on Christmas Eve.
We want to keep Santa healthy.
That's right. Thank you for having me.
And eat some different stuff, yeah. Any questions from our audience?
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas, everybody!